So this is the picture I left off on. This is the argument. I'm not going to read that though. In that video I last uploaded, I think it was the one about age gaps. Or maybe it wasn't. Or it was? I don't know. But I put in the screenshot and it was kind of irrelevant, if that's the right video. And I saw a comment somewhere under a video where a lady was talking about how her brother and somebody else got her evicted or something like that. And someone was like, something. When too many adults live under one roof, things are bound to go left or something like that. But honestly, that's really only in dysfunctional family systems. Like, it's not a new thing for families to live together, but it's like dysfunction is so normalized that people think it's like impossible for families to live together, and that the quote-unquote adults or quote-unquote grown people are supposed to all be dysfunctional, and then all the kids are supposed to just like do whatever whoever says. And honestly, that could even like have some conflicts, because one person's telling you to do one thing, another person's telling you to do another thing. But either way, they expect the kids to like be quote unquote good and not be like the adults, because the adults feel like they're not bad. I don't think this is coming out right. Page 10 to 11. Oh yeah, this was super duper toxic. And I mean, I could get the point, but this is just like super duper toxic. Grandma runs the family, as I've already said. As you can see from page 12, all of the boyfriends would get cut out of the pictures. And eventually, they got tired of cutting boyfriends out of pictures after breakups would happen. So Grandma was just like, if you're dating somebody, they can't be in the picture. And I think this kind of goes back to something I mentioned in another video. It's like, you could really fall for a lot of messed up philosophies and weird stuff. Because it's like, it makes sense to a certain extent, but then it's like, it's either like really, really messed up, or it's just doing too much. It kind of reminds me of this inside joke I had with my younger sister about my mom and her boyfriend, where I'll be like, she's not even doing the most, she's doing the greatest. And that's what this is right here, doing the greatest. This is kind of funny though. Page 15, which is right here, I wrote family newsletters. That stuck out to me because who in the world makes family newsletters and sends them out and mails them to everybody? Like, that is doing the greatest. It's also like pretty individualistic. I don't want to say narcissistic because I don't like psych labels, but I just doing the greatest. I don't even know what to say about that. Honestly, I just thought about something. So, people may know about how Jeanette McCurdy had released that book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. I feel like this dude is probably going to eventually release a book, I'm Glad Grandma Died. Okay, so 17. Wait, no, hold up. 16. I wrote very narky. 17. I wrote willing to give up slight. So he talks about that here. This is some dude that wants to marry someone, didn't really read it again. And it seems like he's a desperate codependent. And I'm not even gonna lie, I've been there. I was there from all of age about 6 or 7 to 12, off and on, but Like at 12, I was really like, okay, yeah, I gotta leave people alone somehow, and I really gotta stop this. Especially with the limerence, it was really, really bad, and it's like, it's not worth it. It's not. And not trying to be rude, but I mean, he looks pretty old anyway, so I don't know how long he's been doing this. It probably says it somewhere in here, but he should just stop. Because it's really not worth it. He's falling apart. He's being used by the grandma lady. And yeah. Now this right here, this was so flashbacky. So, I was really going to talk about 19 and 20, but I'll show 18. So 19, they go to a family restaurant, and the baby's drawn on the table, and the restaurant makes the mom pay for it, or the parents. And the mom pulls a Jezebel, and she's like, well, if I have to pay for the table, or the tablecloth, then it's mine. And that is so embarrassing, and I could totally see my mom or her boyfriend doing some crap like that. Although, due to the spectrum of quote-unquote narcissism that they were on, they were like pretty paranoid and a couple other things that go along with that, kind of like some OCD type stuff as they like to call it. So they didn't really like to go places that much. And yeah, so my mom didn't like to go out in public, but like whenever she did, her and her boyfriend would have like I don't know, freak out, something like this. Not that we were like drawing on the tables, but this was very flashbacky. And it's like they will do the greatest stuff like this. Because that's the only thing I could really call it, I feel. Although, when I started doing research on all this at 14, I did find out about the term narcissist crazy-making behavior. So that is another good word for it. That's the only other thing that you could really call it, unless you want to call it demonic chaos. But yeah, that's really flashbacky. And situations like this are really unfortunate because they're really embarrassing. And then commonly, not even commonly, you will get blamed. Not even just the scapegoats, but all the kid victims, you will get blamed for all of the abuser's dysfunction because they can never see themselves and it's always going to be your fault. So they pull something crazy in public and embarrass themselves, they're going to blame you. And they're going to be like, this is why I never go anywhere. This is why we don't go anywhere. This is why I never drive anywhere. This is why I don't spend money when we already don't have any money. Yeah, that's how it's going to go. But yeah, she was doing the greatest. I'm not gonna lie. His mom better be glad she's not married to some Muslim dude. So, page 30. I'm not even really sure this is the page I really meant to write down. But this kind of goes into infantilization and how his mom would baby him. And he was scared of going outside. He was scared of everything. It's like he didn't leave the house enough, but also he didn't have parents that actually talked to him. So he didn't have like anyone to say, I'm scared of this or I'm scared of that to. So there was no one to like let him know that the things that he was worried about weren't actually going to happen. And unfortunately in infantilization, or really in toxic family systems, you commonly have abusers that want to make you feel like everybody else is something to watch out for and everybody else is dangerous, but they're the only safe people. They'll be like, you can't trust your friends, you can't trust your neighbors, you can only trust us. And an example is like, let's say, I don't know, they're burning your face on the stove or something every day, every time they get mad. And they'll be doing stuff like that, but then they'll tell you, you can only trust us. Everybody else is dangerous. And I could really go on a rant about that, but then I'll be like off the topic of the book. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It's just like he worried about a lot of things that were very unlikely to happen, but kind of started choking there. But it's just like, I don't even know what to say. It's a very unfortunate situation. Oh, and I forgot to mention the fear of getting kidnapped. This is a really, really big thing. And I kind of talk about this, I think, in the coroners message reaction video. Or at least I think I do. And I mean, obviously I know that nowhere is safe. Literally nowhere is safe. But pro-abuse society and family systems push this narrative that if you ever do anything for yourself, or if you ever leave, or try to do anything, you're gonna get beat in the face with a baseball bat and kidnapped, and all this stuff is gonna happen. That, I mean, could happen, but it's like, you don't want to walk around in fear, stay in some bad situation, or never go out and get a job and do something for yourself because of all the possibilities of what could happen when you leave your doorstep or the door. And those things are probably already happening in the house anyway, so it's like whatever. And then there's this. Now, a funny side note is that I heard that Poseidon was a principality over New York. I don't really know what else to say about that. So yeah, next thing. Oh gosh, this is so flashbacky. And I don't even think I had this flashback when I first read this. The family vacation. So, pretty much, the common scenario of sleep deprivation abuse and financial abuse, because it's like, if you pay for a room, you should get your room. But unfortunately, in toxic family systems, that's not how it goes. People will race you to take something that they know belongs to you. Now, I could go on a whole rant about the thievery and the weird little games that people play with you, but overall, the different forms of sleep deprivation abuse are never talked about, and they're very serious. Okay, so in my notes I put 38. Avoid conflict, walking on eggshells. So, what is this called again? Not people pleasing, but it's something else. Fawn response? There's a name for it. More than just walking on eggshells. But the mom just let the sisters take her room and all the other rooms they were supposed to get because she didn't want to start conflict. And so this led to her sons having nowhere to sleep, of course. And then going through extra sleep deprivation abuse because while they were trying to sleep in the living room, eventually one of the aunt's kids decided to come and start watching TV or something. And that is like, I don't even think people actually know how much sleep deprivation abuse really messes with you. I could even say it's a form of reactive abuse as well. Page 45. Greg talking about once again how he wants to terrorize his kids and how he wants to have kids to have a camera in their face and make them be an influencer family. So, yeah, he wants to pass down the generational trauma. And what is this? 46 to 47, more mommy's boy infantilization bullcrap. And then 48. Not being able to cross the street by himself. I'm not gonna lie. Me and my older neighbor sister have always had this method we use where when we're trying to cross the street, we just walk as close to other people as possible. So that way, if we get hit, they get hit. If they get hit, hold up, no. If they, wait. I forgot how it goes, but pretty much we won't get hit alone. That's the method we use. So, I guess I could kind of relate to this, but not as far as like needing my parents to hold my hand, but I guess there's also like the side that he went through more infantilization, and I didn't have that anyway, so maybe that's also like a part of it. Although what I realized way back when is that in certain types of abusive family systems or with certain types of abusers, the older you get, the less you can do. So the closer you are to being able to escape, even if you like do what I did and you like I don't need to do all that. If you do what I did, even then, like when you get closer to 14, the age where you could possibly leave, not that you can't leave younger, but the least longest wait till 18, they start to get funny. More so they start to get funny once you turn 12. When you turn 12, they start doing more infantilization, more financial abuse, and then they won't let you do anything to make money. They won't let you get a job at whatever age. They may stop letting you go outside. So, like, you may have been going outside by yourself since you were 4. But all of a sudden, like, for example, you're 20 now, and now you're not even allowed to sit on the porch by yourself. So, there's different extremes with it. You're either, like, really infantilized for whatever reason, or it's a more overt neglect, but infantilization can also be neglect, because infantilization can also be like, you're 20, but you've never learned how to use a microwave because you've never been allowed to use a microwave by yourself. So, things like that. Something else I could throw in. I noticed that his parents only talk to him when they're like saying something manipulative. Kind of like in the beginning where the dad was like, you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your family. And that's something I notice a lot in society. It's like families don't really talk to each other. People don't really talk to their kids. And I know people are going to try to act like it's just me, but it's not. Although definitely my mom especially didn't talk. I would say my dad was somewhat like his dad, to be honest. He would say something, but it would be something like, you can't pick your family, but you can pick your nose. So, yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, I guess maybe it's common for like manipulative dads to do a lot of manipulative jokes. Something I forgot. I'm just not really looking at this picture again. This is one of the opposites on the extreme end of neglect, right here. And I'm not even gonna lie, toxic family systems will let bullcrap like this go down. And I'm not sure how old they are, but they look pretty young, but I know like children, like the really young ones are commonly like really short, but like, I mean, how old is he? 1? Can 1-year-olds even walk? 49, anti-humanism, pro-transhumanism. And I could also add that due to how toxic the family system is, I can only imagine how she feels when it comes to all this. She's probably one of those people that like couldn't get with anybody and doesn't have anybody, so you just gotta do the dog thing. Honestly, I mean, she's doing what I should be doing. I'm not crying right now. I'm not. But yeah, this is pretty funny though. But it's still really messed up how people try to act like animals or kids and babies. And she's trying to like raise her dog to think it's a human. However that's gonna work. It kind of gives me those vibes of like the people that work at the zoos and they're dating the animals. 51. Passive aggression. Now, I'm not even gonna lie. I know people are gonna feel some type of way about what I'm about to say, which honestly, like, the whole channel is controversial, so I guess it's whatever. But Jezebelic people of any ethnicity are always gonna be very passive aggressive and, like, manipulative and backbiting. It also has a lot to do with American culture and, like, how people don't want to tell people how they really feel, and it's like a lot of just lying and stuff pretty much. But since traveling a lot and being in mostly quote-unquote white areas, where I would have people tell me, go back to Mexico, and also have people tell me, you stick out like a sore thumb because you're the only black person here. Add in that I noticed, especially that quote-unquote white people, especially the women, are very passive-aggressive. And I think that's because, like, also the Jezebelic-ness pretty much on both ends with different ethnicities. It's just a really common issue. And it's like, I notice a lot of things that, like, if it was to happen to me, or maybe, I don't know, even somebody else, like, maybe people would be like, oh, that's racism. But honestly, not necessarily, because I noticed that especially quote-unquote white women do the same thing to each other. So it's like, it's really just, I guess, the issue of normalization of passive aggression. Because I've seen white women do so many things to each other that people would even also call a Karen, which is also the Jezebel spirit. But, like, I've seen a lot of that. But if they were to, like, I don't know, do that to a Mexican person or something, people would think, oh, they're racist. But are they really? Or is that just how a lot of people are? So, yeah, page 51. That shirt really compliments your gray hairs. Thanks. You're not as hunched over as usual. I screwed that up a little bit. Honestly, I'm pretty hunched over a lot, so I mean, I get it. And people don't understand the struggle. And then avoidance. As you can see right here. Hopefully this is visible. The mom just changes the subject and won't answer any questions. That stuff is so annoying. It almost reminds me of, like, silent treatment. And I got a lot of it. But I'm sure everybody already knows it, and that's why I make the videos I make. Quote unquote. I forgot to talk about page 50. So, she must be one of the ones that, has been dragged into New Age, but probably has the overall purpose of being the family generational curse breaker. And she's trying to find her way. But it's falling into whatever. That's what I got out of this. I forgot some notes. So, back to 51. Avoidance and derailing. 52. They hadness. 53. More toxicity. And then this right here. And I'm not even gonna lie, this is like a serious form of sleep deprivation abuse that people do not understand. Like, I used to hear these scientific quotes that people spend a third of their life sleeping, and I was like, not me. I wish. That sounds nice. And this is actually really common. So this happened on 54. Then this happened. This is very abusive behavior when somebody's trying to sleep and people refuse to let them sleep. And really it's all demonic. Because, like, I've even seen somebody who said, I have NPD, and people say that we do sleep deprivation abuse, but why would we do that? What would we get out of that? I don't have a reason to do that and to keep somebody up. And that's the thing, you really don't, but the demons do. Going back to 53, this is, like, serious, though. Now, the likelihood that you're going to marry an only child, I mean, that's kind of up in the air, but I do get what he means here. But you also have to realize that if somebody has a toxic family, they have a toxic family. I mean, they could be an only child with a toxic family. They could be a foster kid who has a lot of trauma symptoms, and it's just like, I don't know what else to say about that. Anyway, so the sleep abuse lasts till page 58. And here on 56, you see the usual. This is so annoying. It makes me think of this video I seen once a couple years ago. And somebody was like, whenever you're trying to sleep, the narc starts banging crap around. And like, oh my gosh, I remember at one point, I'm just not having this flashback, but I used to have this video of one scenario of like it being 3 a.m., but the usual throwing stuff, banging stuff for no reason whatsoever. There's never a reason. I also noticed this like common theme of the babies having to sleep in dressers, and I don't know why this always is. I don't even really think that's that safe, to be honest. I think I seen something similar in The Simpsons, but I don't know. But yeah, so they're watching TV, they're eating, they're turning on the lights. They should be asleep, but of course their mom doesn't care what they do. And people will say they just need a whooping. The mom needs a whooping too. So it's like no accountability, all I can really say. And then this happened. And he spent the whole beach trip trying to go to sleep. And I can totally relate to that. Like, honestly, I didn't even have flashbacks when I first read this like that, but I really am on making this video. Oh yeah, and somewhere he almost died at the beach, but nobody noticed. Also very relatable. I used to read these books pretty often, but after a while I stopped. But I noticed that even before I left my previous situation, my younger sister had like the whole collection. And she was probably reading this to validate herself. But it's kind of unfortunate though, because I remember, due to the fact that family dysfunction and abuse is so normalized in society, my younger sister would use these like videos and books as like proof that it was all okay and whatever, because it was so normal for people to be in these types of situations. So, 65, transhumanism. Of course, from the school system. And it's really interesting how the school, and of course his family, screwed up his perception. So I've been exposing myself to a lot of gamma rays to hurry things along. That's definitely magical thinking. I can relate to that too. Like, do I even want to tell the story I'm about to tell? But yeah, magical thinking is a cognitive distortion from trauma. To a certain extent, because there's also like some usual eugenics-y stuff in there, so yeah. And then 69, ageism, or self-ageism, I could say. Something like that. Magical thinking. He sounds like my dad right now. Like the whole metal detector at the beach, wanting to find some gold. This part revolves around materialism and really just wanting to say you quote-unquote made it in life with the false sense of success that people push. So that way people can like feel bad for all the things that they did to you. And also because you have like no sense of what real love is, a family or any of that. And so you chase materialism. I've never been materialistic, so it's like I can relate to him, but the materialistic thing, that would make me feel better, and I could honestly care less for that. I've always felt like it would honestly make me feel worse, because it's like, why have stuff if you have nobody to share it with, and you're crying while pretending your dog is a human? Your imaginary dog at that, because you can't afford one. Then there's this. Oh yeah, I wrote in my notes he wants to make the one world monetary system. 75, and then lastly 77. 75, I wrote like mom. Okay, wait a minute. And things like this is why people say that Greg is a sociopath. But still, the reality is, he's literally just acting like the people in his environment, along with the bullcrap that people are taught in schools. It all sets him up to be like this due to that and his family system. Raleigh was lucky enough to have a good family system. But it still seems like they didn't teach him about, what type of friends to not have. But I guess also Greg is kind of his only option, so that's why he's friends with him. But I feel like even more so, Greg is only friends with Raleigh because, no one else will be friends with him, and Raleigh's the only person that will put up with his trauma symptoms. But like I said, I could identify with this, but I feel like I've never had a Raleigh. I've always been the Raleigh. So I was on the receiving end of the bull crap, more so. But I guess, that kind of depends, but I mean, I don't know. It's just relatable to a certain extent. And then 77, I wrote bad luck curses, which is also common in these types of family systems. And then that's it.